I started caregiving about 4 years ago, and that was after I lost my father, which he had died alone. So I wanted to be, I found caring for people, being able to be with them towards the end of their life, was a rewarding for the soul. Being able to be there with them on their last days. And because a lot of older people don't have family, or their families wrapped up in other things, or can't be there with them. I interviewed with Don, the vice president of operations, and then met with Jim afterwards, and I decided I really wanted to work with them. They were caring about people in general, and that means a lot to me.
Tammy started with us 2 years ago. We first started, and she was with us for 2 weeks. And then what happened was she got an opportunity to work full-time with benefits. And Tammy's got diabetes. Mm-hmm. So she took that opportunity, which we totally understood. And then about 5 or 6 months later, Dawn Elkier was saying, boy, I miss Tammy. I wish she was here. So we called Tammy's number. She had a new cell number, which we didn't have. So we looked in her emergency contact information. We called her sister. Her sister got a message to her that FirstLight was calling for you. She called us. We talked to her again, and we got her job right away. So we're lucky to have her back. So actually she started with us 2 years ago, but for the last 14 months, she's been working consistently with us. Yeah. And we're very happy to have her back.
And I'm happy to be here.
Well, I do have the client that I'm with now. She was on hospice whenever I first went with her. Bedridden, she couldn't move her arms, her legs. After about 6 months working with her, exercising her, she actually now is off hospice. She's able to move all her arms, her legs, able to stand up, walk at least 200 feet, go on family outings where she was completely bedridden before.
One of the things that Tammy does so well is she is able to communicate back to corporate, back to the FirstLight HomeCare office of what's going on. And I always use this as an example for all the new caregivers that come in and they're hired. What happened was, I mentioned, when the client is improving off hospice, able to walk a short distance, the adult children are pushing her more and more and more. And what happens is the adult children are expecting more, and they're overexerting our client. What Tammy sees is that she saw this, and she called me and said, Jim, the adult children want too much from our client. The husband says, this is too much for her. And the client hears this on the phone. They're all talking on the phone. And what happens is the client gets excited, mm-hmm. has anxiety from this. She hears what's going on. So Tammy calls me and says this, tells me what's going on. I called the physician, told him what's going on, based on what I hear from Tammy. The physician calls me back in 15 minutes and says, I understand what's going on. I've met the family. Let me do an interaction. So he calls the family, and he speaks to them via a phone call. He gets everybody, all the adult children and the husband on the phone, and says, this is what my expectations are. This is what should happen with your mother, your wife, and based on this, now the family's got a much better understanding of what they can expect of how the client's going to improve. So we don't put too much stress and pressure on her, and the family understands exactly what they can expect from their mother's recovery.
And the caregiver,
So thanks to Tammy, she brought that to our attention, which again, we appreciate. Communication is a big part of what we do. When I hear things like this, I love it, and I tell all new caregivers that if you can communicate as well as Tammy does, you're going to stay on board with this for a long time.